This is the Clark Connection Podcast, where 12 years of coaching championships meets real-world leadership. Coach Clark broke through at the highest levels. Now he's bringing you the playbook. Every week, real leaders, real wins. Real strategies you can use Monday morning. If you're done with theory and ready for results, this is your show. You in? Let's go!
All right, and welcome to the Clark Connection Podcast. Ask the Coach. We're going live, talking about leadership, development, all that wonderful stuff. I am your host, Aaron Clark, aka the Coach. Great to have you guys here with us. Those of y'all that are here on YouTube, TikTok. So great to have you guys in. Kind of wanted to go over, look, it's been a while since I've done a live stream, and as you can tell, you're getting low maintenance Aaron today, as I like to call it. Just in t-shirt, been doing a lot of work today. I mean, even my hair, is not as dressed up as it usually could. There's been a lot of great stuff going on though, with everything that we've got here with the Clark Connection Podcast, Coach Clark Leadership and Development, all that stuff. And so I'm trying to find where I put all of my notes. I got a lot happening. That's why I was like, ooh, let me see, where is everything that I've put together. Stuff that I do kind of want to talk about. Updates coming. I think we're going to go back after tomorrow. We're going to start doing the podcast starting at on Tuesdays, doing it on Tuesdays again, 6 a.m., leaving it there. That seems to have been when the greatest amount of viewers were able to get on, watch it, and pay attention. Also, still going to do the live stream on Monday night with everything that's going on. Monday nights are typically the easiest nights. I'm not going to be traveling on Mondays, and so we're going to do them Monday nights. Only do because technically this is kind of like a Monday. Instead of it being a Tuesday, it's kind of like a Monday right now. So that's why we're doing it like that here today. Second I find my notes, guys, we're going to be a lot more better. I could have sworn I had all this stuff in here. There it is. There it is. So it's amazing. All the goofy different stuff that you can do, guys, on here with all of this stuff. So I do want to invite everybody tomorrow. If you're in the Baton Rouge area tomorrow, Bethany Church does a phenomenal marketplace leadership lunch. It starts at noon. Get there about 11:30. That way you can eat. But then also you get to meet a bunch of other leaders in the area. Phenomenal event. That we're going to definitely do that. Also want to make sure that I give a quick shout out to our sponsors. Look, we got one right up here, Hubbard Flooring Studios. And actually, I just realized y'all can't even see all of it about Vicky. There we are. Vicky and her team. They're doing a phenomenal job, guys. They got some great stuff going on. If you reach out to her and tell her you heard about it through the Clark Connection Podcast, Coach Clark, you mentioned me, that's going to get you that's going to get you 10% off. Okay. I just had a great episode. Go back. If you don't have a financial advisor and you're thinking about it, go watch the episode that I just did with Jesselyn. It is phenomenal, super knowledgeable, real cool, down-to-earth person. I'm telling you, you'll enjoy her. Excellent. She's great. I think I just froze up on that one. So if y'all are watching, and I don't know if you can hear me or not, but I just froze up there. And I just lost my computer, I think. Great stuff. If y'all can still hear or see me, drop something in the chat. I don't know what's going on on my YouTube. Anyways, also want to give a shout out to Brian with Steadfast Electric. And look, he's not going to be, so really BJ's not going to be this week's episode. This week's episode is Yoel. On YouTube. I do apologize about that. I did just get it to come back on. Okay, so it looks I did get the hey, yep, I can hear you, but still frozen. So that's all good. And it's kind of funny because it does really flow into what I was going to talk about, the joys and difficulties of leadership. The joys and difficulties of leadership. Okay. And why do I say this? That because everybody wants to be a leader. Everybody, I want to be the boss. They really want to be the boss because they think that's just the be all end all and just that it's cool. And so if you're the boss, it's the greatest thing. But and kind of when you look at it from the outside looking in, it really is cool. It really is cool being, because you get to see, oh man, they get to go to the leadership luncheon at Bethany. So they're gone from 11:15 to about 1:30. So they got to miss 2 hours worth of work. Yes, thanks, Davey, for letting me know that TikTok is still up and running. But from the inside out, it's more pressure than most people would even know what you're even willing to talk about and deal with. And it's just so funny because I was talking with you guys saw him on here, Renee Manfrey, that phenomenal man, mentor of mine, friend of mine, as we're going through, just joined his platform, the What's Your Passion platform, that as a leadership speaker, trainer, and coach, that going with them really, because that's one of the things that I want to do is help create and drive more leaders. So if you're not following Renee, he's got a huge presence on LinkedIn, and his Facebook is starting to take off. So Renee Manfrey, make sure you go follow him. That excellent one to talk about. But that when people look at it and they don't really take into the account that when you become a leader, you give up the right to think about yourself as the individual. And you may be thinking, well, Aaron, that can't be the case. My boss that only thinks about themselves. And that's the problem. I'm not talking about being a boss. Nobody likes a boss. And so whenever you think about it, I want you to take a second right now. Take the next 30 seconds. I want you to think about your favorite teacher, your favorite coach. It could be your favorite boss ever. And think about what made them so great. Okay. I want you to really go through like, what is it that you loved about that teacher, that boss, that coach? What was it? And when you think about it, you probably think of stuff like, hey, they actually cared about me. They told me the truth. They didn't just do stuff. They didn't just tell me to do it. They talked me through it. They worked me through it. They helped me learn and understand. They didn't just assign it to you. But when you think back through when I think back through it and think about some of the people or bosses that you didn't like. What is it that you didn't like about them? So we've thought about the good. Now let's think about the bad. And chances are they were constantly losing their cool. They were constantly lying to you. That you might have heard them even talk bad about people around or that were on the team. They might have talked bad about them behind their back. They talked to them to you, so you knew they were talking bad about you. There were all sorts of different things that you could probably think of and name that you dislike about your least favorite boss or bosses. But if you were just clump them all into one, all into one, that just one thing of what you didn't like could be that they never did what they said they were going to do. That they took forever to make a decision. Fill in the blank. It could be anything like that. And so that's the difference. Okay, so that you disliked. People don't like bosses, but they love leaders. And it's important to know that leadership, and I come back again and again and again and again, leadership is influence. Nothing more, nothing less. If you find yourself, you say you're a leader and you turn around to see who's following you and you don't see anybody, you're just out for a walk. Leaders have followers, leaders have influence. We're all leaders in some way, shape, or form, but leadership is tough. I'm trying to remember. I was on a podcast recently. Oh, it hadn't come out yet, so I won't give you all the deals. But that was one of the things that they were asking me about leadership and who should be a leader, and I said not everybody, because it's difficult. And why I say this is oftentimes as the leader, there's going to be things that negatively affect those around you. All right. So you're going to make hard decisions that negatively affect those around you, your friends, your families, your children, your teammates. You're going to upset and make some people mad. Okay. I'm going to say that again. You're probably going to upset, make people mad. It's going to happen that you can't be everywhere at once. It's just not possible. And so you're trying to constantly, as that leader, how do I get, okay, Bobby's got a baseball game over there. Susie's playing over there. We've got dance recital here. I've got this happening over there. I've got to be a part of this. And so you're constantly on the move trying to get those things. And you're trying to make sure that those things happen all together. You're going to make somebody mad because if you've got more than one child and a spouse and your team to think about, somebody's going to get upset. You're going to negatively affect somebody. Okay. It's just a matter of time before you do it. Okay. When I was coaching, me and my wife Dawn, were actually talking about that just this weekend. Um, uh, Not this weekend, 2 weekends ago, because it was Mother's Day. We went to go somewhere, and I was like, yeah, happy Mother's Day. It's glad you're not having to do this as a single mom anymore. And she went, I used to joke with all my friends while you were coaching that I would tell them that I was a single mother. I would tell them that yeah, from the end of July until they lost in the playoffs, I was basically just a single mother raising two boys on my own. If you want to know where my husband is, he's at the field house or he's at a game. He's at a field. He's somewhere where I don't know. And they didn't have the whatever the stalker app is that you use to find people. Or if they did, I didn't know about it. And I have it on my phone. I don't even know what it's called. They, but mine, most of us as a leader, though, we're working 90 hours a week. Because we're trying not to let everybody down. Okay. And that's one of the things that's hard about being a leader is you're constantly giving up your right to think about you while you're in this. You're constantly thinking about your team. You're constantly thinking about how do I make the most and the best of this? Okay. And so you're giving up a lot. You're going to make somebody bad. Now, one of the cool things that kind of came, so like right now, I'm mostly working remote. But I get to hang out with my kids. They're here. I can let the dogs out. I don't have to find somebody, get somebody to let them spending the $87 a gallon that or whatever it is. So there are some good things that I'm finding that come out of this. One of the good things that I loved about when I was coaching is over the summer, I could bring my boys with me to summer workouts. What they did on that high school campus, we'll never know. I never saw it on any of the films. But when you put together that my two boys, and there were probably about 6 to 8 of them at any given time running around a high school unsupervised, I'm sure they had a lot of fun, but they got to come out and got to hang out. So that was one of the cool things that was okay. And so remember that as the leader, as I'm telling you, you're going to make and upset some people. Oftentimes we don't work hours. We work until the job's done. Okay. Now, going back or staying on that, the negative decisions, as much as you try. So point number 2 that I want to make, despite your best efforts, somebody is still not going to like you. And that's okay. I've got one that I talk about all the time. I don't mention his name, but he couldn't stand me because he wasn't getting enough playing time. And I would just tell he was such a good kid. I would give him rides. Like, I really enjoyed being around him. He was just such a good person. Saw him several years later, and he was like, "Man, coach, I really didn't like you in high school because I thought you had something against me." My job as as a coach is to play the best players, to put the best people in position to win. And so I had upset him because he wasn't the best on that team. Look, if he'd have been any, like, if he'd have played for me at Central, if he'd have played for me at Walker, he probably would have played, started. But he happened to be on a team where I had all-state player, and then in third year, so I had like 3, actually technically all 4 years, I had an all-state player playing for me, and he happened to be behind all of those all-state players. The last year that I coached, we had, out of the 5 spots, we had 3 of the 5 all-district spots. So, I mean, we had a very talented defensive backfield. And no matter what I did, he thought I had something against him. Looking back at it later, he was like, "Aaron, coach, this is what happened." It's all good. That happens, guys. Remember, they're going to dislike you, and you have to be okay with that. You can't be everybody's friend. Think about it with your kids. That's I think that's the toughest things about being a parent, and that I think is one of the major issues today, is we have too many parents that want to be friends with their kids instead of their parents. So there she is, Jesselyn, the star of last week's show. So if y'all didn't watch that episode, we got Jesselyn. She's in the house, hanging out with us. And yes, I am talking about the difficulties of leadership, Jesselyn. Now, so point number 1 is that you're gonna make just hard decisions that negatively affect those you care about. Number 2, despite your best efforts, you're going to be disliked. Doesn't matter what you do. Half the people will love you. The other half won't, I love that old phrase. Six one way, half dozen the other. Doesn't matter. You can't make everybody happy. And then the third thing that I want to talk about, and this is the part that I started off with this a little bit. You give up the right to think about yourself. All right. When you become a leader, and this is why I say, as a leader, or that not everybody should be a leader. Okay. Not everybody should be in leadership. Everybody is a leader. It is a skill that you can learn and you can improve on it. And at some point in time, you're going to lead somebody. Not everybody should be in leadership. Not everybody should be in management. Because you give up when you move into that position, when you say, "I'm going to be the leader," all leadership means is I'm the top servant. I'm the lead servant. So you're giving up the right to think about yourself. I was like, Kenny, I do make a few people happy, but not that many. But what I will say, this is hard because we get very egotistical. It's very much in our nature to want to have everybody like us, that to want to have the greatest and best. And we want people to appreciate us because everything, like I said at the beginning, everything rises and falls on leadership, and leadership is influence. And if you don't do a good job influencing those around you, your organization or your team is going to crash. Whether you're just a solopreneur or leading thousands of people, it's all going to come down to that. And it's understanding that not all of the answers are not, or just because you have a right answer, it doesn't mean it's the right answer in this situation. One of my favorites, to give an illustration on this, is if I were to ask you, what's half of 8? Take a second. Take 30 seconds. What's half of 8? What would you say is half of 8? If you're watching on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, like, drop that in the comments. What would you say is half of 8? I see some 4s coming in. I was about to say, and I know Caitlin's on here and she's heard me do this a million times, so don't ruin it for me. But most everybody, all right, so I'm getting a lot of 4s, and that is right. Half of 8 is 4. But what if I told you half of 8 is 3? Or it could be E, W, M, or, as I had somebody say, that if you cut it in half, if you take 8 sticks and cut it in half, you get 16. And so that's what I'm saying is, if you draw the number 8, and I'm just go, hopefully this will show very good on here. Oh, there we go. Y'all could see it, and you cut it in half. That's what I'm saying. You can cut it in half that way and get your 3 E M W. And if you cut it in half this way, you get 0. Okay. So there's different ways. There's not always the best. Sometimes the answer to whatever you're going to do is 0 instead of 3, instead of E. And as you go through and you having to try to figure that out as the leader, that's where I say it's not about you. It's not about you as the leader. You're going to be misunderstood. Okay. And sometimes you won't have the opportunity to defend yourself. When you make this decision because you've given up the right to think about yourself and you're making the decision based off of what's best for everybody as a whole, you're not always making these decisions based, if you're a leader, not a boss. Remember, bosses are selfish and nobody likes bosses. As a leader, as a true leader, the person that's in leadership is you're giving up your freedom to make decisions based on what you want. And that's difficult. It sucks. But that's what it requires. It requires that. And so we talked about it. You're going to make hard decisions that negatively affect those you care about. You're going to be disliked despite your best attempts, and you give up the right to think about yourself. Okay. And that's it. It's okay, guys. You're going to be misunderstood and you won't always have the chance to explain yourself. And I honestly don't. Like, because do you really need to explain yourself to people who aren't where you are, that haven't been where you are, that don't want to go where you are? Because, like the great Dr. Seuss once said, those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. And so use that as you go forward. You're going to make difficult decisions. You're not always talking about yourself. And like, go be the leader that you always wanted. Go be that leader that you respected the most. Okay. And so go do all those things. Also, if you like, they make sure you follow, you subscribe, all of our stuff. Hey, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook. This is how you stay in touch. This is how you also put in your questions. If you have questions on leadership, personal growth, it could be something at your job, entrepreneurship, that get them to us. We want to answer that, and we will do our best to make sure that you get shouted out on here. So definitely do that. Get us your questions. You can do it by email, you can do it by website. I've got a link tree set up. I know if you go and you look, it's at coach_A_Clark. It has all the different ways to reach me. Okay. There's several different ways to do that. And I'll also, most of you probably have my contact information, but I'll add it below on the replay. It'll be added in there. Okay. And so remember, you don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. So keep leading, keep learning, keep asking those questions, and I'll see you on next week's Ask the Coach. Bye, everybody.